we want to now bring in Tyler Voorhees. He's an artist, and you have the most interesting and incredible art. Share with our viewers and our listeners your genre and how you came up with it.
Well, first off, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I'm a painter primarily, and I love history, and so a lot of my work revolves around history. But I also love, as far as a style of art, I love surreal art, and I love specifically really long-limbed figures for some reason, and that's a whole nother conversation about why I like that. But anyway, what I do is I combine history with these long-limbed characters, and I create this series. I've created this series called "The Jobs of Yesteryear." I found this topic, the history of the worker, really fascinating, and I started digging into it, and just these stories were coming alive to me and speaking to me. So I've been depicting jobs from the past and workers of the past for about 5 years now, and I'm about 130, almost 140 paintings into it, and I'm just still so fascinated and still just deeply enthralled with all of the stories and the imagery that I find once I dig into it. So that's my main shtick right now.
Keeping history alive through your artwork, it is fascinating. Some of your paintings and some of your work, I've been following you on Instagram, but I think the other fascinating part to your story is actually you and your family and your dedication to being able to share your artwork and walking away from the rat race we call life to make this happen. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'll try to abbreviate the story a bit, but my wife and I, we were living in Colorado, and we had our first son. And as many new parents discover, life gets really busy once you have a kid. And we were just feeling the strain of working our tails off. I was a teacher, my wife was a graphic designer, and we're just working our butts off, just trying to afford daycare, and felt like we barely saw our son, and just fitting these little moments in between and living for the weekend. And I love teaching, but it was a very demanding schedule. At the same time, we'd been keeping the art going on the side. It was just kind of my hobby and something I enjoyed doing. And it just so happens that my wife is also just a brilliant business mind. And so her and I came up with this plan to take a leap of faith, kind of a now or never moment, and quit our jobs. We put our belongings in storage, and we took our little 2-year-old on the road with a little camper and all my art in the back of our little SUV. And we traveled the country doing art festivals for the first 9 months, and we didn't have a home, and it was awesome. We had a little camper, and we just saw the country, and just fell in love with the whole art festival scene. And so that was about 5 years ago, and we've since found more permanent residence here in Michigan after falling in love with this state. And so we've been here for 3 years now, and yeah, we just the mission continues to be the same: to spread joy and to honor workers through my art, and we just love traveling too. So the art festival world allows that most years.
A leap of faith that has been an education in its own. With everything that's going on with COVID-19, how are you surviving? Because so many of the art fairs have been canceled.
Yeah, it's been a year of adaptation, and we've really enjoyed being home. To be honest, it's been so nice to be in Southwest Michigan during the summer. Usually, it's a very busy time for us, and this year we had time just to kick back and plant a garden and to go to the beach a bunch more than we usually do. But yeah, as far as the making ends meet, unemployment, to be honest, helped a lot when they opened that up to self-employed and independent contractors. So that was a lifeline that was vital for us. And then we've just had to find new ways to generate some income. Um, Everything from renting our house out, and my wife has a couple of side gigs, and we just had to get scrappy. But we knew that we'd be taken care of, and we knew that that things would fall into place the way they were supposed to. So we haven't really stressed that much, but my heart goes out to others that are in worse spots than we are. But we've been able to adapt fruitfully, thank goodness.
Artist Tyler Voorhees with us on the Oakland County MegaCast. Tyler, earlier on you mentioned that a lot of your art has historic ties to it. How is what we're going through in 2020 and COVID-19 during this pandemic, how is that going to influence your art in the near and distant future?
Yeah, so I'm definitely an artist who reacts to what's around me, as I think most artists do. And so initially, we look around and we saw all these industries, almost every industry being affected, most of them in a negative way, and workers, individual workers just really being upended, their whole routine, their lives. And yeah, we just started feeling for them and got this idea to reach out to our followers and to our network and just ask people how they're doing. How's your job going? What's changed? How do you feel about it? And kind of gather these stories. And the response was overwhelming. We had probably close to 100 responses, and I took those stories, usually in my free time, like at night, and I would just sit with those stories and create a painting that depicted their story in some way, usually depicted their job. And then I would share that story along with the image on social media and share their story. And then I would send the painting to the person that lent me their story. And so it was just a little way that I could kind of bring some light into this really dark time for a lot of people. And it was really a way for me to kind of cope and stay in touch with people that I really care about, and kind of keep my finger on how people were feeling about it. So that was just, that really changed me. In particular, the health workers that wrote me and told me about their experience was just really powerful. So that was one part of how it affected my work. And then my wife and I, also being home, decided to jump into this big project we've had on our docket for a while, and it revolves around this one character that I've done in my series called the Lamplighter. And so lamplighters were the people, the workers who went around and lit the street lamps at night to illuminate the streets and kind of bring light into the darkness and keep the streets safe. And the Lamplighter has been one of my favorite characters out of this series, and it's really become more symbolic for who I want to be in this world. I want to be a harbinger of light and for people and for those around me. And so we took this idea, this lamplighter, and we've started building this giant sculpture of a lamplighter using all these old tools that we found and remnants of the workers of the past. And so we're assembling these tools and I'm welding them together, which is a new skill I've been learning. And we're building this giant lamplighter sculpture that we are hoping to debut in the next 6 months or so.
Tyler, one thing I appreciate about your social media sites is you do put video and you share who you are as a person. How important has social media been for you as an artist to try to get your work out there? Because there are so many people and so many artists trying to do the same thing.
So in the 5 years leading up to this year, we've amassed a nice collection of people that follow us, and we've met them at art festivals typically and connected with them in person, and we'll see them every year we go to that festival. And so we've got a pretty dedicated following, and so this year has been a year to really lean on that a bit and use that as my means to connect with my followers and patrons versus going to the art festivals and connecting with them that way. So yeah, that's been the basically only means of selling work has been social media. And as you've seen, I love making videos. I usually don't have time to do it because I'm just getting paintings done for the festivals and going to the festivals. But being at home and having more time, I've had time to make these videos and use that as my venue to sell the work and to teach people about the painting that I'm releasing. And that's been really fruitful, actually. It's been working. So, yeah.
Tyler Voorhees with us, an artist on the Oakland County Megacast, joining us today. Tyler, you're one of those few artists that will be featured at Arts Beats and Eats this year. What can people expect to see from you there, and how is this festival experience going to be different from you from an artist's perspective than others in the past?
Well, the sheer numbers, both of artists and patrons, is the biggest difference. Along with everybody there wearing masks, that's always a little bizarre to me still. But instead of a couple of hundred artists, there will be 20 or so, and patrons can show up and they can. There's a $5 entry fee, and that gets you 75 minutes of time in the festival, and to keep the social distance measures in place, there'll be one group or one person in each booth at a time. There'll be spots to kind of wait to get into the booth. So just a much kind of more calm in a way. It's not these massive crowds of people you're kind of squeezing through. It's much more intimate. And I did one last month, and it was actually really enjoyable because I felt like we had more time to connect, more time to talk. But there's a lot fewer artists to take in, but it's still enjoyable time. So it's 9 to 6, 9 to 4 at the Royal Oak Farmers Market parking lot, and you can just show up and sign up for a time, or you can sign up beforehand on their website.
So you said you're one of 20 artists. Do you know how you got picked over other people?
Well, with any festival, you apply, and send in your work, and they review that and invite people. I was just fortunate that they chose me, and I do think that there are many artists who aren't interested in doing shows right now, that either think it won't be worthwhile or they're concerned about safety, and I respect those decisions. But for me, I'm just really excited to get out there and see people again. I'm such a social person, and I do miss the community of artists and the community of patrons and just being out there talking about the art. So I'm really excited, and I think that came through in my application. So luckily I was chosen.
That's awesome. I will say, I think we all feel the same way, especially when you love people. You love meeting people and those organic moments where you just connect, and it leads to, conversations that you wouldn't have with someone else. And I will say, looking at your work, you do mainly focus on the worker. However, after George Floyd's death, you did a very powerful piece of artwork that you auctioned off. What made you take on that topic, and how was it received from the public?
It was just a moment to band together and to kind of all do what we could. And it was a balance between not making it about me in any way, and more about making it about him and his family, and the cause of police reform. And so I just thought, I can't do nothing, there. And I had this image coming to my mind of a protester with their hands up and with the mask on, and so I painted it, and I really liked it, and thought, I could maybe do some good with this. And then in addition to that, I painted a small portrait of George Floyd, and auctioned them off to benefit his GoFundMe page for his funeral, and that goes to his family. So I was just really, I just wanted to do something. I think, like most people, you just feel helpless and you don't know what to do. And so for me, it was just as much as my own therapy to just work through it in some way. And it didn't heal it all, but I'm still working through that, but it helped. So,
Is someone that has no artistic talent whatsoever. I come from a family of 9, and all my brothers and sisters were the babies. I have a twin sister. All my brothers and sisters above us got all the talent, either musical talent or artistic talent. So I'm always so envious. Can you walk us through the process in which you go through, especially because you do love history? So do you study the part of history that you want to reflect in your artwork, or do you just put pen to paper and see what comes out?
No, it's really the former option, the former technique there. I do a lot of research, and I really enjoy the research. So I'll start. I have a big list in my studio here of all these jobs that I've kind of got my eye on, and those will come from talking with people or reading or just thinking about current industries and tracing them back to their roots. And I'll look at this list when it's time to paint and just see what grabs me as far as the topic. And then it all starts with research. I read what I can find. I look at imagery, and through that information and those images, the painting starts to kind of formulate in my mind. And that's when I go to the sketchbook and start really rough sketching it out, little tiny sketches that just give me the general composition. And I don't spend too much time on that, because once I find a composition I like, then it's time to get to the wood panel and start working on it, start seeing it come to life. But like anything, and I love talking to kids about this, like, it just takes practice. And it's really, I look back at my first painting in this series and I see, like, wow, look how far I've come in the 100+ paintings I've done. And, I'm not done. It's all about putting the time into it and really finding something you enjoy that you spend some time with, and you'll just get better by putting the time in.
We all need to grow in all of our professions. You know what, Tyler? You are such a cool guy. I love your story. And thank you for being with us here on the Oakland County MegaCast. Quickly, though, tell people where they can find you at Arts Beats and Eats, and also follow you. Which social media do you have? I found you on Instagram.
Yeah, that's probably where I post the most. It's Tyler Voorhees Art, 2 O's, 2 E's, and Voorhees, and TylerVoorheesArt.com, and Tyler Voorhees Art on Facebook, all that good stuff. Yeah, but stop on by Arts Beats and Eats. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be a great weekend, and I look forward to being a part of it. And thanks for having me on the MegaCast.